Hello, viewers. Welcome to another episode of MBTV Weekly Property Roundup. We bring to you top developments from Indian real estate space, which is going to have a lasting impact on you as consumers. I am Prasun Kumar, Marketing Head of Magicbricks, and with me is Jayashree Kurup, Senior Real Estate Journalist and Editor-in-Chief of MBTV. Welcome, Jayashree.
Thanks, Prasun.
So, a lot of interesting developments happened last week, Jayashree. But the most interesting one to me and the one that impacts consumers is the one that I'm going to pick first, where in Maharashtra, in Mumbai specifically, the Maharashtra Real Estate Appellate Tribunal, the MREAT, has ordered Tata Housing to refund home buyers money with interest because the possession date was moved quite significantly. Now, the question is this going to be a precedence across, and can consumers therefore going to various appellate tribunals expect such reliefs coming their way?
See, Prasun, the real estate transactions have been very murky over the past so many years. With RERA, there has been a slight course correction. But issues of the past have still, this is a project that was sold in 2015 without a completion date, that the consumer didn't know when he was getting it. Now, according to the law, you can't take more than 10% of the cost when you are before you register the project. The developer has clearly taken 59 out of 1.5 crore or something like that, which means that he's taken over 20-25%. Now, that is a violation of the law, but both of the Maharashtra Apartment Ownership Act as well as the RERA Act. And then in 2018, there has been a communication where he said that the house will be delivered to you in 2020, but it has been again moved to 2022. So developers have been very arbitrary, even big names like Tata Housing, which have a brand of trust associated with them. So really what has happened is this is one consumer who's taken on RERA, taken on a big group and said that if you are wrong, you are wrong and you have to accept it. And I believe that this has been a landmark judgment right now.
Yeah, it will be very interesting to see its implications, because this obviously comes as a shot in armor for consumers, and a good decision at that. All right, moving forward, Jayashree, now Realtors have been given time till 30th of June, which is today, to pay GST on shortfall in input procurement from dealers. How is this going to help developers?
It doesn't. It actually doesn't help the developers. It is that, earlier when the GST regime came in, there was an 18% and 12% regime with a 6% abatement for land, which meant that it was about 12% and 8% or something like that for housing, affordable and other housing. Now, what has happened is that the developers themselves had demanded that you should have, and there used to be an input tax credit, which meant that if everybody pays the tax, everyone down the line, all the vendors pay the tax, the input credit would come to the developer and it would get passed on to it. It was available to them to pass on to the consumers even during the construction period, which a lot of developers took benefits from. About 2 years ago, the developers themselves made a very, very strong plea that they wanted a 5% and 1% GST on real estate, which is 5% for general category and 1% for affordable housing, but without input tax credit. Now, what happens is that when you don't have input tax credit, the taxation will happen, right, on at some point or the other. Now, what has happened is that the understanding was that without input tax credit, at least 80% of the materials would be bought by bought from vendors who were paying their taxes. So remember that construction industry also has sand, badarpur, cement, and many informal sources. They had to move to the formal source. Now, if they haven't moved to the formal source, at least 80% of their procurement, then they will have to pay the GST on those items. And today is the next day for that.
Okay, all right.
It is cleaning up the system, basically.
Yeah. It is bound to generate some short-term pain points, but ultimately in the medium to long term, it's for the good of the industry. Now, one interesting news came from Delhi, Jayashree, and this is something that I would want you to tell our viewers in detail about, because it's going to impact a lot of them,
Yeah.
which is this entire online property tax payment thing, right? And the news that is coming, where the new portal that has been made by National Informatics Center, there probably all the old data, last 12 years data, is missing, right? And this is obviously going to lead to a lot of problems when it comes to online assessment of taxes and payment of that. Why is it that we keep getting into these kind of tech issues all the time?
Prasun, one of the biggest problems with our municipal governance system has been that management of data has not been their forte.
Yeah.
And the property tax was one segment that had done well. They had created portals and they had done well. I'm assuming that all this is because they want to make it a centralized system. But in that process, there is no way you can reach out to the consumer without importing back the earlier information.
Yes.
If you do that, how will the consumer remember that about 70-80% of consumers are not very technology literate? They
No.
may have gone to the citizen centers, they may have used experts or their own children to help them, and suddenly when you're locked down, you come into the situation where 12 years of data is missing. Now you have to start logging in, you have to generate a subscriber ID. These are not things that are citizen friendly, and I think they've done well to go back to the LG and complain against this.
Yeah, I think instead of creating hurdles,
Yeah,
the way to use technology is to make things easier.
absolutely.
Rather than insisting for a lot of compliance, the focus should be on the job that the portal is supposed to do, which is to collect taxes.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I mean, obviously, there's a lot of learning there for the authorities. Now, Haryana, interestingly, is building about 50,000 houses on municipal peripheries. Jashid, please tell our viewers, what are these houses meant for, and why this is significant.
This is part of the overall Housing for All. Remember, Housing for All has just, you saw that the mission director came on MBTV and announced that they had finished 5 years of Housing for All, PMA. And it has been one of the most successful schemes. Never in anybody's lifetime have we seen 1 crore houses being sanctioned and about 30-40 lakh of that built in 3-4 years. It's been the biggest project that has ever been undertaken. Now, as part of that, what they realized was it's not enough to just tell people go and buy new houses. You have to make houses available at affordable rates where people can buy. Now, one of the hurdles that they came up against was that suppose you have a job which shifts. So suppose you are coming, you're not very far off. It's motorable distance from the place of work. Suppose you come from, say, Bhiwadi and you are working in Gurgaon, you're traveling huge distances every day, and that takes a toll on people. Now, what they've done is, if you're working in Gurgaon, on the periphery of Gurgaon, or if you're in Manesar, on the periphery of Manesar, they are building cost-effective housing that people can buy. Smaller housing you can buy, and you're closer to the workplace. But interestingly, what I liked about the scheme was that they're saying that in case you don't want this, suppose you suddenly move to Noida to work and you're stuck with a house, they are offering a buyback scheme. The authority will buy back that house from you, and that way the liquidation possible. They're making real estate investment a more liquid asset, and that's an important thing.
Sure. Now, we all know that COVID has brought about a lot of safety and well-being related issues to the fore. And, people are really scared and they want to take all kind of precautions. But in some cases, we do see this going a little bit too far.
Yeah.
And the news came in from Pune, where housing societies were denying entry to residents coming from certain parts of the country, and asking them to home quarantine or produce medical certificates that they are COVID negative, etc. Which obviously the Pune collector has said is not tenable and cannot be done. Now, these kind of arbitrary decisions at the very grassroots level. Now, is there a mechanism to really sort this out, or to put a structure to this so that we move away from arbitrariness?
We should actually, but unfortunately, not one authority across the country has actually defined the role of the RWA. You
Mm.
know that we have, since the day of the lockdown onwards, we at every one of our bureaus has been going out to the commissioners and saying, please define that rule. And in many cases, there have been lots of clarifications that have come. But
Mm.
one thing that has not come is, like for instance, take the case of Gurgaon. When
Mm.
it was opening up, it said that you can get your domestic help in,
Mm.
provided the RWA agrees to it. Now,
Mm.
think of that RWA. It is a eclectic body of people who have been, they're just residents, right? And the onus is on them. Now, suppose there was a COVID infestation in that place, then the RWA is squarely to blame. So
Yeah.
the RWA is playing safe and saying that produce medical certificates. You can't produce medical certificates that you don't have COVID. They're not going to test you for COVID.
That's
We are
true.
already short of kits in the country,
Yes.
but the RWS are not thinking of that.
Mm.
The second thing is that there are lots of like if your parents are far away, if the flight services have resumed, you may want to bring your parents back wherever they are from. You
Mm.
will take precautions, but you want to bring your parents, your children, all kinds of permutations and combinations. The
Mm.
RWA cannot unilaterally say this. In fact, one of the stories that we carried on content.magicbricks was that there was one gentleman who came to Delhi from Bombay. He gave up his house in Bombay. He took a house in Delhi in DLF Phase 4. And
Mhm.
he and his family had to live in a hotel because the RWA wouldn't let him in. He went to the district magistrate. We appealed to the district magistrate. But for close to 2.5, 3 months, the poor man was staying with his family in a hotel, and he said, "I'm running out of money."
Mm.
And these things are happening, and I think somewhere somebody will have to take a strong stand and say, what is the role of the RWA? How much can they do, and how much can they not do? And I
Mm.
think Pune Collectorate has been very forthcoming in saying that these are issues that the municipal authorities can take note of. Not, the RWA cannot arbitrarily do this.
Sure. And I think one of the characteristics of this entire crisis has been a bit of arbitrariness around everything,
Absolutely.
right from lockdown to opening up. And
But
so,
Prasad, we've never faced anything like this.
mm,
And look at it. We've opened up. There are more cases,
yeah,
and even though there is a very high ratio of people who are coming out of it, I mean, I think we have more people who have recovered than more people who are still being treated.
yeah,
However, it is a scary thing, and everybody is trying to err on the side of caution.
yeah.
So I wouldn't put the blame squarely on anybody. I just feel that we are all feeling our way through around the world.
Hmm.
We should
For
be,
sure. And therefore you're right that there is a bit of structure that needs to be given with clear cut policies,
yes,
clear cut do's and don'ts, so that everyone is clear on their mind and we can get rid of this arbitrariness.
absolutely.
Great, Jayashree. Thank you very much. And viewers, this is it from this week. We'll come back again next week with lots of development. Stay tuned to MBTV.
So now we're not only talking about the big issues, we're speaking about the small issues which matter and make a difference to your lives. Thank you so much for watching.
Yeah.